welcome to Good Games Spawn Point, the show for younger gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Bajo.
And I am Darren. Quick, call the fire brigade. An out-of-control blaze.
Fire? Where?
Darren, are you still running SimCity as a background task in that metal head of yours?
Affirmative. Sorry, Hex, no cause for alarm. Situation under control. Giant lizard!
Look, Darren, I think if you want to get better at this whole TV presenting thing, you need to focus on doing just that.
But wait until you see how focused I was interviewing legendary game developer Ed Boon.
Favorite superhero? It has to be the Flash. That's been since I was a little kid reading comic books. That's always been my favorite superhero.
But Darren, you meant to tell us when there's a developer in town. It's our job to interview them. It's our job.
Yeah.
Oh dear, the underground waste levels are close to overflowing.
Right, well, I'm gonna go read the news.
Overload.
Darren, it sounds like you need to upgrade your sewerage system.
Done. Thanks, Hex.
Bajo here at the Spawn Point News Desk, ready to give you all the news that I can find. Mike Mika has a 3-year-old daughter he likes to play retro games with. She likes to play as Peach in Super Mario Bros. 2 and was sad to find she could only play as Mario or Jumpman in Donkey Kong. So Mike modded the game for her to replace Mario with Peach, or Pauline as she was originally known. A study at the North Carolina State University has found that elderly people who play video games are significantly happier than those who do not. The study asked 140 people aged over 63 how often they played games. It found 96% of participants played games occasionally, or at least once a week. Those who played reported higher levels of well-being, while those who didn't reported more negative emotions and depression. And that's the news for this week.
So then my giant lizard comes in and he stomps all over the police station and the sewage plant. Everything was destroyed.
All right, well, for our next review, we're going to have a look at a game which has a title that's almost as hard to say as it is to play the actual game. BIT.TRIP presents Runner2, Future Legend of Rhythm Alien. Oh. You know what, let's just call it Runner2.
Good idea.
Yeah.
The original game, BIT.TRIP Runner, had a retro 8-bit art style, but the sequel looks far more contemporary.
Yeah, so it's a modern game imitating an old game that has been turned into a modern game.
Affirmative.
I thought it had a really relaxing vibe to it with a cute and colourful design. It kind of reminded me a bit of Little Big Planet. There's even a narrator.
Performed by Charles Martinet, who the Spawnlings might recognise as the voice of Mario. Here we go! Mamma mia.
There isn't much of a story to narrate, though. Commander Video gets teleported into a strange realm by the evil Tibbletot and has to fight his way back to his own 8-bit reality.
Confused and companionless, our hero ponders his current position. The only thing that remains clear to him now is that he has fallen prey to a vulgar scheme full of villainy, which he must vanquish.
It's not a revolutionary tale, but I quite enjoyed the stylish cutscenes.
Now, we all know that controls can make or break a platform, particularly one that's so dependent on timing. And I've got to say, when I played this on PC, I was a little worried. It started off okay, J to jump, S to slide. It all makes sense, I guess. Now, K to kick, W to spring, D for block. Hand cramps.
Well, it does say that you should play the game with a controller if you can, and it is much, much better with a controller. But I believe if you release a game on PC, you should be able to play it with the keyboard without any hassle.
But once you fix the controls, the game really shines. The platforming is classic side-scrolling action. You guide the perpetually running Commander Video through 5 uniquely styled worlds, each with 14 levels to jump, slide, loop-de-loop, and kick your way through to reach the finish line and the big bad boss at the end of each area.
The BIT.TRIP series has always been about the relationship between gameplay and sound, and Runner2 is no exception. As you become familiar with the world's theme, the beats become a guide for timing your actions. With every successful jump or dodge, you trigger a sound. It makes you feel like you're contributing to the music. You don't have to collect everything to complete a level, but it certainly adds a lot to the rhythm of the music.
Yes, it certainly is hard to resist chasing that shiny, shiny gold. Most platformers have a very limited move set, and that can get repetitive over time. But Runner2 introduces a new rhythm or platforming mechanic every couple of levels to keep things interesting.
And there are some fantastic visual cues to help guide you through. You start to recognise obstacles and their movements, and you'll find that your eyes are constantly leading your runner to buy you a little more reaction time. I found by the time I reached the harder levels, I was just instinctively reacting to what was ahead.
I believe they call that being in the zone, Hex. And there are times where you'll be fluidly moving through the levels and the music is swelling and everything's going perfect, like you're conducting some incredible complex orchestra of platforming mechanics. It's such a great feeling, but it will never last forever. You will slip up a lot, be warned.
Affirmative. But it's the kind of game where you control the balance between fun and frustration. You can take the casual approach and just focus on getting from point A to point B in one piece. Or you can unleash the completist inside and go for the glory of 100%!
What are you giving it, Bajo?
Well, it's very hard to fault this game. Keyboard issues aside, I'm giving it 9 out of 10 Robo Chickens.
I thought the music had such a great hook. I found myself humming these songs long after I put the game down. I loved it too. I'm giving it 9.5.
So, would you like to see how I went interviewing Ed Boon?
Well, all right, Darren, this better be good.
Yeah, our reputations are at stake.
Yeah.
Of course they are. Hello, and welcome to my show, Darren Does Devs. Today we have one of the superstars of video game development, Ed Boon, creative director at Warner Brothers Games. Welcome to the show, Ed.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
Now, before we begin, I have to scan you for noobishness. Just a precaution, you understand. Scanning, error, noob detected. Oh, wait, that was a mistake. Oh, silly me. See, Boon is noob backwards. You can see how my senses got confused there. Is that a problem for you in your life?
No, it's actually, it's been a lot of fun to play with. I actually own the domain name noob.com, and a lot of people have been asking to buy it from me, so, but I haven't sold it yet.
Now, which is your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? It has to be the Flash. That's been since I was a little kid reading comic books. That's always been my favorite superhero.
Now, is it difficult putting Superman in your games and making it fair for the other characters?
Yeah, that's probably one of the most popular questions that we're asked about, you know, when we put a superhero like Superman in the game. The answer is we have the ability to tone down certain characters and raise up other characters. So we do a little of that just to kind of even the play field a little bit, but it usually works out.
So, Ed Boon, which games did you play when you were a spawnling?
When I was a kid, the main games were arcade games, the games that you put the coin-operated games in. And so the big games were Pac-Man, Defender, Ms. Pac-Man, Missile Command, all of those kind of arcade classics. So those are the ones that I really played the most of.
Did you get many high scores?
Yes, actually, I was a very good Defender player, so I got quite a few high scores.
What is the best thing about making games as your job?
The best thing about making games is the whole opportunity to get something in your head and work with a group of really talented people and see it become reality. There's something about that connection that is very satisfying.
Do you have any advice for any of the spawnlings who'd like to pursue careers in video game making?
My advice would be to decide what kind of contribution you want to make to the game. Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to be a producer, a designer, an animator, computer programmer? There are a number of different ways that you can get into doing video games because there's so much in terms of contribution.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Ed Boon.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me here.
It's been a pleasure. Back to you, Bajo and Hex.
You know what, Hex? I think Darren did a pretty good job with Ed Boon.
Yeah, he did do a good job. But we can't allow this dev intervention thing to continue, because it is our job
It's
to
our
review
job.
devs.
It's not his job.
Not Darren's job.
No, his job is to be annoying.
Even though he was pretty
And
good.
he's really good at that.
All right, well, we should get started with some questions. First up, we've got this one from Kaislamer in the stadium in Victoria.
Kai Slammer! Hi, Good Game SP. I watch your show all the time, and I wanted to ask you a question. I've heard about this game coming out called Disney Infinite. Is this a real game? If it is, could you please review it when it comes out, tell me a little bit about it, and could you give me a sneak peek? Thanks, Kai Slammer. Well, Kai Slammer, yes, Disney Infinity is a real game.
Yes, and we think the grown-ups could be in for a bit of a world of pestering over this one because it's essentially taking the basic idea of Skylanders, where you buy real figurines and put them into the game with a special portal.
But there's a few big differences. Firstly, it's Disney who own Pixar, Marvel, and even Lucasfilm, which means you'll be getting toys based on movies like Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Cars, The Incredibles, Pirates of the Caribbean, and maybe even Star Wars and Marvel superheroes at some point. But I think what is most exciting is the Toy Box mode, which is kind of like a big 3D version of Little Big Planet's Creator mode. You can build levels and create games and mix together all the different playsets and then share your creations online.
Well, it is sounding promising, and yes, we will certainly be reviewing it to see if it lives up to that promise when it comes out around June this year on pretty much all of the consoles. But let's move on to this one now from Lego Man, who is in B.I.T..TRIP. Behind you, in Victoria. Hi, I was going to get the Lego Rock Band game for PS3, but I have Guitar Hero. Does the Guitar Hero drum, guitar, and microphone work with the Lego Rock Band game, or do I need to buy the drum, etc., to play the Lego Rock Band game on the PS3? Thanks. P.S. Can you please answer? P.P.S. Darren is a new blazer.
Well, we're happy to say Lego Man. That new ringtone is terrible, Hex. Bajo speaking!
Hello, this is B.I.T.TRIP.
Whoa, it's B.I.T.TRIP.
Darren, do you have a cousin? Is it like a crazy cousin or an uncle?
Oh, just kidding. It's regular Darren.
Oh, that's a shame. Oh, hi Darren, can you help us with this question? Is that why you've called?
Of course. Yes, Lego Man. Don't worry. Your Guitar Hero drums, guitar, and microphone will all work with Lego Rock Band, and will work with any Rock Band game for that matter. Unless you have the Guitar Hero 2 guitar, which unfortunately does not work. But seeing as you have drums and a microphone as well, we're guessing that you have the World Tour guitar, which will work.
Oh, well thanks, Bad Darren. Hey, Bad Darren, could you sing moves like Jagger in your Bad Darren voice?
Oh, yeah, in your B.I.T.TRIP voice.
Yeah.
I've got the moves like Jagger, got the moves like Jagger, I've got the moves like Jagger.
That's pretty smooth.
Thanks, Darren.
Thanks,
See ya.
Darren.
That was
Alright.
terrible. Who's next?
We've got this one from I Don't Know, who is somewhere in Australia, outside Australia.
Could be anywhere. Hi, good game. I have asked this question so many times, but I was unsuccessful. So here's my question. Is there a new DS coming out? Because I am saving up for a 3DS, but I will save up for the new if there is one. P.S. Hex rocks, Bajo does not, and Daron is a robot. P.S.C. Want Hex to answer this question. P.S.S. Bajo at Movie World, I saw Batman.
Well, I don't know. If the DS is anything to go by, then chances are we suspect Nintendo would make a newer 3DS. So far, they've already upgraded it once with the 3DS XL, and who knows, they might have a 3DS XLi or something like that in the works. But having said that, they haven't announced a new one, so chances are it's a fair ways off, if they even are working on it. But honestly, we don't know.
We don't know.
Let's move on to this one now from Unknown in Unknown, New South Wales.
Because this is the 100th billionth time, can you answer this? Okay, I just need to know where you get the flute. You know, the one that attracts Arceus in Pokemon Diamond. So please tell me in the next Ask Good game this week where you get it, how you attract Arceus, and where he is supposed to be. Please answer the question, and yeah, unknown. Sign out. Well, Unknown, unfortunately, the only proper way to get the Azure Flute was through a special Nintendo event that has already come and gone.
Yes, one of those events where you had to take your DS into a physical store. But not all hope is lost. If you've got an action replay device for your DS, then you can cheat your way into getting that flute. Remember, this is cheating and isn't recommended by Nintendo, and it could stuff up your save game, so proceed with caution.
Extreme caution. Enter this ridiculously long code into your action replay system and make sure you don't have any other codes active. Then walk into a Pokemart holding down the L and R buttons and collect your Azure Flute from the delivery man. It's a pretty funky code. It looks like the letters Darren sends me. I just delete them.
Then make your way up to Mount Coronet, play your Azure Flute, and prepare to face the legendary Arceus. Well, good luck with it, Unknown, but let's move on to this one now from Jessica, who lives in Sydney, New South Wales.
Can you play the flute?
I played the flute when I was in year 5.
Yeah.
I could play Castle on a Cloud. The second part, though, I was never good enough to play the melodies. They always put me on the harmony, which was a lot slower and simpler.
Really?
So instead of the song that you know, I played it like this. Do, 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 do,
Right.
do, 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 which doesn't sound like Castle on a Cloud.
It doesn't.
But that was an
Doesn't sound like
element.
anything.
That was like the bass element.
That was a really long answer to my simple yes or no question. Can you play the flute? And I still don't know. I still doesn't
cannot
sound like you
lecture
can.
me on long, waffly answers to questions.
Yeah. Would you like,
Okay.
here, have my keyboard. Why don't you type out your answer and email it to me?
I can't because you've pulled all the keys off. Look at this.
It's backup keyboard.
Thank you. So, when I was in year 5,
She's doing it.
my friends all played the flute. Hi, GGSP. I thought you were going to review New Super Mario Wii U and Nintendo Land. Why haven't you? Please answer. And at the end of the Christmas concert, everyone applauded. I took a bow and was the greatest flute player of the whole school. Send. It should arrive in a long format there, so you could read it whenever you want. Okay, Jessica, we did actually review both of those. We did it on our other show, though. It was our family-friendly Christmas special last year. Did you just delete it?
I did. But I thought they were both okay. From my memory, I gave New Super Mario Bros. U a 7.5 and Nintendo Land a 7.
Yeah, I didn't like Nintendo Land as much, though. I didn't find the mini games that much fun, so I gave it a 6.5. But Mario was a bit more enjoyable, so that got a 7 from me. But moving on to this one from I Forget, who is in the Australian Capital Territory. I can't believe you deleted that.
I read it. No, I read it. I just read really fast. Do you want to see how fast I read? Yeah. See this sheet of information?
Why do you make that sound when you read?
Because I ate too many sandwiches. Do you guys know any actual info about the PS4? If yes, please answer, and also some of the games. You guys are the best. And also, do you know some cool games coming out this year? Bye from Anonymous.
Well, I Forget, we do know a fair bit about it. We mentioned most of that in our news the other week. It's got a new controller and is about 10 times more powerful than the PS3, but we still have no idea what it actually looks like, how much it will cost, or when exactly it'll be available in Australia. But our guess is it'll be out probably to the end of this year or early next year.
And we only know a few of the games. I think the biggest one is probably Knack, which could be great. You play a little guy who can pull together different elements to make himself big and powerful, and it certainly looks very pretty.
It's from veteran game designer Mark Cerny, who has worked on all of the great PlayStation games like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Jak and Daxter, and Ratchet and Clank. So it could be their next great mascot.
There's also the rather boringly titled Drive Club from the makers of MotorStorm, but it won't be an arcade racer like those. It's actually a more serious and detailed racing simulation game. And there's also The Witness, which is made by the person who made Braid, and that could be very interesting. It's going to be a puzzle game, I think.
Yeah, there are a few other games that we do know about too, but they're all aimed at adult gamers. On that note, I think we're out of time for this week, but if you'd like to ask us anything, you can send your questions in here. Hopefully about games, not about flutes or harps, but we can answer those as well.
Yep. Right, well, SimCity has come a long way since its first incarnation in 1989, and while the series has branched off with things like SimCity Societies and Sim Safari, nothing beats the original enduring glee of hours of city planning.
I played SimCity 2000 when I was a kid, and I loved it, so part of me felt like a bit of an old pro sitting down to this. If you're new to city builders, it's basically a genre of game where you get to plan an entire city. Sims will move in and start building structures, and you'll have to manage your budget well so that you can keep providing all the necessary services like hospitals and schools to keep your city expanding. I quickly learned, however, that despite having gotten older, I'm just as careless with my money as ever, and I sent 2 cities bankrupt.
Oh, Hex. Clearly you're not a strong enough leader. You need to rule your Sims with an iron pasta scoop.
I know, Darren. I want to give the people what they want. They just want so much, and I could never stay on top of it all.
Yes, and no matter how organised I was, you can never prepare for anything, like this tornado.
Well, the game certainly looks slick, and while a lot feels familiar, there are a few changes to the core gameplay that differ from the city builder I remember. First and foremost, this installment requires you to be connected to the internet at all times just to play it.
Indeed. When we tried to review this game, we often had trouble connecting to the servers, and there were a lot of issues for a lot of people. Though, thankfully, that has now mostly been resolved.
What did you think of the multiplayer badge?
Well, in this game, you're able to choose from a handful of pre-created terrain options, which provide a varying number of set locations for players to claim. You can inhabit these terrains with friends, or join an existing map filled with other random players already building away and stake a spot next to them.
This system is in place so that you have easy access to set up trade negotiations with your neighbours. You can help your friends or get them to help you out with things like water supply or garbage collection when you find yourself in a bit of financial trouble, like Hex, Spendy McSpend Pants over here.
All right, Darren.
Well, when this worked, it worked really well. Plus, it's nice being able to nosy over and take a sticky beak at your friends' cities whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, that was cool. Although there were parts of this game that did feel quite restrictive, I thought. I mean, my memory of SimCity was being able to mould and shape the landscape to whatever I chose, you know, putting rivers or lakes in if I wanted to or filling them in, but here you're kind of given your little dotted square and you really have to stay within that.
Happily, the city building stays true to its roots. You begin by zoning residential, commercial and industrial areas for your Sims to build in, connect them with roads, and then make sure they all have access to both water and power.
You can have your very own superhero living in your city, and a villain to create chaos with his evil henchmen. The superhero needs to be paid, but he'll take care of the henchmen for you. And it's worth having the villain, as he rewards you with money for helping him execute his evil doings. It's all about creating a balance. However, prioritising can be tricky.
I had so many fire stations, big ones too, so I couldn't work out why my city was always burning down.
Well, Hex, there are a number of contributing factors to consider as to why your buildings are burning down. Too many abandoned buildings are a fire risk. Criminals can set fires because you haven't got enough squad cars at your police station, or your jail cells are full. No high schools in the area also mean people aren't educated in basic fire safety, so they're constantly setting fires by accident. And if you haven't upgraded your roadways to large, expensive avenues, fire trucks will always get caught in traffic and not be able to put out the blaze in time.
Yes, just when I thought I had enough money to start expanding my roads, bam, power outage. I now need to spend all my savings on upgrades to my power plant or nothing will have power and everything will shut down.
I know, it never ends, and suddenly I'm so far in debt that there's no coming out of it. My only choice then was to raise the taxes by a lot, then all my Sims hated me and they left. I knew then that it was over.
Yes, and it's at this point where your only course of action left is to unleash the lizard.
The suggestions and hints from all the various heads of departments are pretty clear in the way they'll guide you towards the best course of action to solve a problem too, so that stuff's really good.
There are benefits to playing with friends, but solo play works too. You could start a bunch of your own cities on one map and have them trading with each other. Then you can be revered as the giant overlord of the Sim universe, ruling with an iron...
With an iron pasta scoop, I know, Darren. I think that would be a bit stressful, though, managing all of your own cities in the one map, but I'm sure you'd be very good at it. Ultimately, I think the fact that I still lost so much sleep just stuck in a city planning zone is proof that SimCity is still doing something right.
It is a bit hard to recommend this game right now, though, because of all those online connection issues. I'm sure they'll be ironed out eventually, though, and that aside, I had a great time with this, Hex. I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, it's a shame because I could sense my friends' frustration as I saw them constantly signing in and out trying to maintain a stable connection. But when it worked and we were online and playing, we had such a good time, so I'm giving it 7.
Hex's town is burning down, burning down, burning down.
Hex's town is burning down.
My fair lizard.
Come on,
Bajo
wasn't
streets
that
are
bad?
filled with poo, filled with poo, filled with poo. Bajo streets are filled with poo.
Sound like it.
Too much sewage.
Sound like it, Darren. Well, that's all the time we have for this week, but we shall return next week, and we're going to have a look at a game which features a personal hero of mine, Sonic in Sonic Dash.
Sonic has appeared in over 30 video games, yet according to Sega lore, he's still only a 15-year-old hedgehog. That averages at 2 games a year since his birth.
Hang on a sec, Darren. Sonic's first game was in 1991, so that means he would be 22 years old.
Oh, well, you're talking his historical gameography. I'm talking more his fictional biology.
Guys, I thought we'd run out of time.
Affirmative. Bajo out.
Darren out.
Hex out.
That doesn't make any sense, Darren.
Tornadoes on the city fringes! What?